Hello.
Hello.
Well, it looks like it might actually be working.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the 9 Years podcast.
Oh, well, no, don't joke with me that we're live. Oh, wow. I'm very sorry, everybody. We were miles away. We were pondering this defeat. I can't talk today. People are just rubbishing it because it's never going to happen. And I'll bet my mortgage, my life, everything I have that Neil Lardley will not go to Notts County.
Interesting. Apparently, they've had 18 stays of exit. Superb. Welcome. Myself. Sunday Night Live, 5th of September. We are now in September officially. After an exciting August and yesterday afternoon's Oxford win 2-1, 3-1 at home to Oxford. As you can see, I'm joined by Rob Tuvey. Good evening, Rob.
Evening.
And also Andy Parslow. Andy, how are you?
I'm very well, thanks, Stu. How are you?
Yeah, good. Good. Yeah, I've just let you watch the Andorra game, the England-Andorra. Crikey, that is hard work. That's hard going. Watching that. Did either of you watch that this afternoon?
I had it on. I thought it was a bit boring, to be honest. It's just no real sort of pace to the game. It's just a little bit flat. It's one of those games, isn't it?
Yeah, Rob. What about yourself?
Yeah, I think I watched the first 15 minutes. It was quite interesting to see how Trent Alexander got on in midfield, but I couldn't sort of have it on. Just had it on in the background. In the end, ended up watching our game back rather than watching that.
The full 90 minutes or the extended highlights that Robbo was on, as we just said, Robbo and Connie Murray having a good conversation yesterday.
Yeah, the new bromance. Just the extended highlights and that I watched back. So just a few good bits and a few bits that just to pick out to highlight to the players potentially as well.
Cool. Andy, have you had a chance to watch it back yet? Did you watch the Quest highlights last night?
Yeah, I watched the Quest highlights this morning, and I went into the training ground today to watch the game back and sort of make my notes and sort of prepare for Portsmouth as well. So now I've had to have a look. Yeah,
Colin Murray certainly does love us, doesn't he? That bromance is certainly going on with that, and it's good to see. The publicity side's good to see. George, you've been at the ladies this afternoon.
Yeah, I was at the ladies' game this afternoon at Carshot, and rather disappointing. I think it'd be a kind way of putting it, but they got a draw in the end, so not horrific.
Superb. Do you know, we've got a comment already. I'm going to put it up. This is quite good for you, man. From Catherine Clements. Andy Parslow has changed the game for Wimbledon. That's a compliment to start with, isn't it?
It's very kind. Very kind. Not sure it's true, but it's very kind.
Yeah. I suppose we can start from there, can't we? Good day yesterday in terms of 2 goals from the corners. But if you look at it, corners actually recently, 4-2 Ipswich, 2 yesterday. Is that a sign? Is that a sign of it sort of? Obviously, it takes a little while, doesn't it, to get things going? Is that a sign of things improving, or is it just that's what we've been doing and we just needed a bit of not luck, but it's obviously delivery and stuff like that, isn't it, Andy?
Yeah, I think there's a few factors in play really. I think one of the key ones is Anthony Hartigan, whose delivery's been unbelievable. Not just the last couple of games, but all season since he's been back with us. So that plays a massive part, because you can have the best movement, the best ideas in the world. If the delivery's not right, you don't really give yourselves a chance to get started. Yeah. So no, it's been a combination of a number of factors, but I think the ideas have been there for a little while, and now it's coming together a little bit more, and hopefully it will continue to do so.
Brilliant. And Rob, if you think about it in terms of those sort of set pieces and corners are a massive part of the game, aren't they? In terms of they can influence games. Must be pleasing to see them not now coming off, but obviously resulting in goals.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think a lot of credit will go when we score them. But I think if you look yesterday, the way we defended them in the past 2 games, the way we defended set pieces, and that has been really, really good. And Andy's got to take a lot of credit for that. But also the players are a massive part of it as well. Within the meetings, they're coming up with solutions and working heavily with Andy as well. And I think if you look at Jack Rudoni's performance yesterday, he was superb at defensive set pieces and that. So I think in both boxes at the moment, we look a real threat It's credit to the work that Andy and the players have been doing.
Definitely. And I don't know, George, did you stay behind for the man of the match yesterday?
No, I had to shoot off yesterday, but from all accounts, it was a very entertaining evening, I think.
Yeah.
So much so that I think with the Wimbledon Brewery stand ran out of beer very early on in it.
Oh,
I
really?
think it was well received that evening, I think.
Yeah, it was hilarious. They put a little stage on so Ivor could be seen. It still was a struggle, to be fair. You know what Ivor's like, sort of 4 foot tall. And then Jack Rodoni come on and literally towering over Ivor, which I know isn't difficult, but he's growing now in terms of the size of him. Then he had to apologise for swearing. It was hilarious. He didn't mean to. Ivor just asked him what was it like playing out in front of that, and he just slipped a bit of a swear word. And I don't think he even realised. I think he was so hyper with everything that's going on. But one thing that struck me was when Ivor just said, how many appearances you got now? And Jack was trying to be modest. He knew exactly how many appearances he had. He sort of said, I think about 55, 56. I was like, but also that he's only 20. Sometimes you just forget that, don't you? It's just like, he talks so well and stuff like that. But the goals he took yesterday, the second goal he took it was more of an experienced person that had done that.
No, 100%. And myself and Robbo were talking today, and sort of performance now, that's his benchmark really, that we want him to make sure that he's setting them high standards week in, week out really. But you've got to remember that he is still young, he's still developing, and there's certain parts of his game where he's still got to improve on. And if you look at it, I think a few years back, Robbo had to really work hard on his heading, and I know Robbo and James at under 18s worked so hard on his aerial ability, and you look now and he's a mainstay at corners for us, and he's getting in the box in key areas for us, and that's his game really. I think that the second goal that he scored yesterday just sums him up as a player. He's so cultured as a midfielder, and that sort of finish can be seen at any level. So really, really pleased with him yesterday.
Yeah, because I noticed when Robbo was talking to Colin Murray yesterday, was talking about defensive headers that Jack Rodoni did. Is that something also that you work on, Andy, on that side? Because I always joke with Jack that he's got a lovely haircut. I don't think he really wants to head the ball too much, does he? Do you know what I mean? But he is really, I was surprised how good he was with his head. If you think back to last season, he scored a header against Rochdale, the flick header. He's getting into positions. But is that defensive side as well that you're working with them on, Andy?
Yeah, definitely. So I sat down with Rudy in pre-season, and but we're basically having a chat with him about what his aims were for the season, goals, assists, that sort of thing. And we mentioned heading, and I showed him a few clips of Cristiano Ronaldo to sort of draw the comparison is maybe a bit of a stretch, but to show him that Ronaldo, when he joined United, wasn't this imperious athletic machine in the air or anything that he eventually became. He was a tricky technical player, and he developed himself to become what he did become. And I said, Rudy, you're what, 6'2", something like that, 6'1", 6'2". There's absolutely no reason why working on upper body strength, working on your leap, working on your timing, you can't add this to your game as well. So it's something that we've been mindful of. In terms of the actual training, it will be how he marks, how he looks to try and attach to people and ensure that his man doesn't score. So his role essentially from defensive corners is going to be to stop his man from getting the contact. We have other players whose sole job is to go and attack the ball. Rudy's job is to make sure that his man doesn't get near to it.
Brilliant. Okay, so sorry, George. I know I've gone well off script. So I do. This is when it's dangerous when I don't went off script. So in terms of Rob, I was thinking about August review of August really. On paper, it looked. I remember looking at fixtures, thinking this is a challenging start to the season. Bearing in mind, to be fair, most months can be challenging because there's some really strong teams in this league at the moment. But if you think about Sunderland, Ipswich, Oxford on the back end of August, and we've managed to get into the third round of the Carabao Cup. What's been your highlights of August on the pitch?
Highlights of August. I think that first game. I think if you take away the emotion of the first game and back at Plough Lane in terms of seeing the fans there was incredible. I think that will definitely stand out. But I just think to see that we've got goals from everywhere. I think that's the most exciting part to come from the month is that. To get the 10 different goal scorers all across the pitch, and I think that's really, really exciting to see, and hopefully that can continue, because I know that in the summer when myself and Robbo sat down, that was the main thing for Robbo. We wanted a team where the goals could be shared across all positions throughout the team. And I think that to get that so early on has been a massive positive for us and something that we want to continue. But if we're being completely honest, we want more goals as well. We feel that that's probably one area that over the months that we've sort of looked at and gone, can we have that killer instinct a little bit more in the final third and just make sure that we sort of tighten up with our final ball, or our take-ons are a little bit more successful in the final third as well. And yeah, then we can be even bigger threat moving forward.
Andy, what about yourself in terms of on the pitch and stuff? What have you been your highlights?
I think I agree with Rob. I think the Bolton game has to be right up there in terms of the occasion. But I think the characteristics that have sort of become a mainstay with us at the moment of having the character to stay in the game, never give up. That's been fairly consistent throughout the month. It's not something we've always wanted to have to do. But it's for me the standout thing has been we've had that mentality to get back into games, turn defeats into draws into wins, and I think that sort of never say die attitude has probably been the standout thing for me.
Brilliant. George, over to you.
Okay, so Rob, just starting with you. One of the things that Rob has done since being appointed head coach was he's brought in specialised coaches such as Andy, Steve Salis, Sammy, who's joined more recently. Is that something that we did as an academy, or is that something that Robbo's just introduced to the first team and that you haven't dealt with before?
I don't think in terms of having it as an academy, we didn't really have it in place. But the one thing that Robbo, Michael has always encouraged is going out and CPDing and getting personal CPD and looking not just in the football bubble, but outside of that as well. And I think it sort of shows with what Robbo's done again. We're open-minded. And we're looking at marginal gains and where we can get them at times. And I think that that's just a follow-on of the mentality that Robbo, Michael Hamilton, James Oliver Pearce, all them guys have always implemented in the academy. And there's no reason why that shouldn't be the same at first team level as well. So the introduction of all different types of coaches and them to focus on specific areas has allowed myself and Robbo and Simo to really just concentrate on the football side of it as well, but also educate ourselves to really keep learning as well. Set pieces is something that is not my strong point at all, never has been. But I've learned so much listening to Andy since he's come in as well, and it's educating me as well. So I think alongside it, our staff are always upskilling as well as the players.
So, Andy, you're one of these specialist coaches that's come in. What's your responsibility on a match day, and specifically during a game? Are you coming out communicating at set pieces, or what's your role on a match day, basically?
I'm trying to come out and communicate at set pieces. With the noise that we make, particularly at home games, it's difficult to always get that message across. But no, I think if my sort of responsibility is restarting play, so whether it's attacking or defending, corners, free kicks, throw-ins, whatever it may be, if that's what I'm responsible for, I need to be able to try and affect it when it's happening. It's the most important time when it's happening. So we'll do the prep during the week, obviously, but when it's happening live, if there are things that are unfolding that I can see that perhaps other people can't see, maybe even the players on the pitch can't see, if I'm able to affect it, even by 0.5%, I've got to try and do that. So I'll get up. To get up for every single throw-in would be unnecessary. You have to give the players ownership to be able to move for throws and work sort of work their way out of those situations. But for the attacking and defending key areas, free kicks, corners, I'll try to get up and just make sure that everything's where it needs to be. Make sure there's no sort of impending danger or if the opposition are doing something that we haven't expected, something that we haven't seen in the past or prepared for, that I'm able to try and communicate that across.
So when it comes to identify things, we know the coach has earpieces and they're speaking to staff that are up on the TV gantries. How much feedback do they give you guys for set pieces and helping to identify those things that we might not have anticipated?
So Simo's up in the gantry, and he communicates with Rob during the game. So the set pieces there, to be honest, they're pretty much left to me. But if there's anything absolutely glaring, then Simo will communicate that down to Rob. Rob will pass that on to me. And to be honest, it will usually tend to be stuff about what's happening behind the ball, so not necessarily the setup for us attacking a free kick, but what the shape looks like behind, just in case the free kick's cleared and they look to get on the counter attack. So just making sure that we're we're set up for like the what if scenario. What if it isn't perfect? What if it hasn't gone as planned? Are we then in a position to go and defend? So that information is communicated as and when it's required. But yeah, the set piece is pretty much left to me.
And just one last question before Stu comes in with a live question. How detailed is our sort of set piece playbook? You see NFL teams with a 300-page or whatever it is document with various plays. Are we like that, where we have a huge variety of options, or are we more about getting the details right on a few options?
Well, last time I came on this podcast, I got told off for giving too much away about our next game, so I can't go into too much detail. No, to be honest, there isn't an enormous playbook. One of the key sort of lessons that I learned shortly after I got the job is to try and have different routines for every single game, for every single opponent. The games come so thick and fast, there's just not enough time to be able to implement it all for the players to understand. They've got enough that they need to understand in preparation for a game to go and throw 3 or 4 new free kicks or corners at them as well. It's just, it complicates something that doesn't need to be complicated. So we'll tend to have set ideas, and then the detail will come relative to the upcoming opponent. So every team setup will have strengths and it will have weaknesses. It's my job to try and identify what the weaknesses are and come up with solutions for how we can exploit them.
Superb. So in terms of, that's quite interesting, because that's why I don't want to go into too much detail about individual teams, because of that sort of side of it, because it is such a specialist role. But is it a case, obviously, if the delivery's right, then you're on to win anyway, aren't you? Do you know what I mean? In terms of, you can know what's going to happen, but if your delivery, if you look at delivery yesterday from Andy Hartigan, that was outstanding, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm. You give yourself a great chance if the delivery is right. It's then just the finer details. I spoke to Will Nightingale the other week about it, and saying an uncontested header gives you probably a 9 out of 10 chance of scoring. A contested header, it reduces down to a 4 or a 5. So getting that separation from your mark is key. So yes, the delivery needs to be right, but we need the detail around the movement to be correct as well, to increase the quality of the goal scoring chance we're trying to create.
Brilliant. Where we got Gary Fletcher, a regular listener. Gary's at England. What has he done? Just on the train on the way back from England game. Don't know why I bothered. Watching the Wombles wins and was hands down. Gary, I don't know why you bothered with that, mate, to be fair, but I imagine it was cheap, I would have thought. Good question here, actually, from William Lonsdale. We've heard a lot about Robbo's journey at Wimbledon for the club. Can Rob tell us a bit about his, please?
Yeah, so I started on work experience with the foundation, and just basically went into 3 clubs. So I went into Wimbledon, Fulham, and I spent about 3 weeks with Reading's first team as well, when Steve Coppell was manager. It's something I always wanted to do, was to get into the coaching side of it. And when I just started doing Wimbledon Park, so coaching at Wimbledon Park, and doing all the summer camps there. And then Jeremy and Robbo offered me the opportunity just to go down and see the pre-academy, so the under-7s, under-8s, and if I wanted to do a little bit of coaching there. So would coach on about a 20 by 20 square with the 7s and 8s next to the under-18. So watching Robbo's teams play on a Saturday morning. And then when the club got promoted, Jeremy and Robbo again offered me the opportunity to be the under-9s head coach for the club. So, and then after that, just worked my way up. I've coached every age group now at the club, and I've held the League Foundation phase role, the League Youth phase role, and the under-18 manager's role as well. So, obviously, big part of my development has been with the football club, and I'm very grateful to the likes of Michael Hamilton, Robbo, especially, and Jeremy as well, who have always supported me and helped me with my development all the way through, really.
Superb. So we've talked a lot about Robbo's bromance with Connie Murray, but one of the things that I noticed yesterday, it was quite interesting actually, and I think it surprised Connie Murray, but I think it was a very honest opinion of high expectations. Robbo is. I think what you see with Robbo sometimes is, he says it how it is, but I also, that high expectation of, waking up on a Saturday morning and being excited about going to a game and wanting to have a chance of winning and stuff like that. How does that play with yourself? Does that keep you, Rob first, does that keep you on your toes, that high expectation that he wants?
Yeah, definitely. I think that people say about his high expectations for the players, but I can assure you that it's higher expectations for the staff as well. And we come in every day and we come in with the mantra that we want to be the best version of us every day. And we've got to look to improve not only the players, but ourselves every day. So, yeah, that's something that we will always strive to do. And it certainly keeps you on your toes. But I think you wouldn't want it any other way, because I think the day that you sit there and pat yourself on the back is probably the day that you're getting a little bit too comfortable, and that's where sort of mistakes start to happen, really. So I think it's really important that we look to take the club forward, and we've got to come in every day and look to be the best version of us and keep kicking on.
What about you, Andy? Because that's obviously, you've done, in terms of the corners and that, we've been quite successful, but does it keep you on your toes to keep working at it and stuff like that? And because it was a great result yesterday, 3-1 against a very good Oxford team, let's be fair. But Robbo wants more.
100%, we all do. It's Rob's hit the nail on the head with it. Our job's to come in every day and be the best version that we can be of ourselves. But I think it's important to highlight as well, it's not just Robbo driving it, we drive it ourselves as well. We hold each other accountable. If like within the staff group, if we don't think certain things are good enough, we'll tell each other, and we make sure that everything is as good as it needs to be. We want to try and take as much non-football stuff away from Robbo as possible so he can focus on the football. So everything else, standards, environment, whatever it may be, we've got to try and drive it ourselves as well. And to be honest, I think the personalities we've got among the staff, it suits us. I think we naturally like to operate in that kind of way. So the high expectations are, they're something that we try and thrive on.
Brilliant. Good question here, by the way. I quite like this one. So Daniel Ravel was by the inflatable goal in the kids zone, reminiscing yesterday how Rob used to be outside Kings Meadow taking quids for a kick. How far have you come?
Yeah, the quids didn't go to me, trust me. Yeah, it is mad. I went and had a look at the kids zone yesterday, and it does take you back to them moments of missing the first 15 minutes of games, because you're packing up the inflatable and you just want to get in there and have a little watch and that. But that's part of my journey, and I'm so grateful for that part of my journey as well, because that allowed me to learn how to interact with different people and try and get people over and do my bit outside the ground to try and make sure that there was a good atmosphere before going into the ground as well. So it's a massive part of it as well, and the work that the foundation do is huge, and to see how far that's come as well and progressed is just truly amazing. And you look at the stadium now and look at the five-a-side courts and the things that they're able to offer compared to where I was in there, it is absolutely fantastic, and I'm sure the sky's the limit for them guys as well.
It must make you proud, because I must admit, I went and had a look around, and it had to be fair, had the same equipment as at Kings Meadow, but in a way I was quite pleased that it hadn't developed, because it just meant we were taking bits of Kings Meadow with us on that side of it. When you look at the ground now, and what we've done with it, obviously you were at Kings Meadow, how does that make you feel?
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. The first the Bolton game, I had a walk round and I was really emotional just to see the food stalls and just to see sort of you look at Kings Meadow, and I just think that you can't compare the two. It's so hard to compare them, but I think what the club's done really well is they've kept that personal touch that we always had at Kings Meadow. So the fact that fans are able to meet up from wherever they are in the ground, I think that's absolutely brilliant, and I think that will keep that personal touch that Kings Meadow always had. But yeah, no, it's definitely an emotional place, and I think every time, me and Andy were saying the other day, every time you go there, you sort of find something new at the moment, and it's so good, and I don't think we fully explored the whole Plough Lane experience yet. So we're looking forward to doing that even more this season, and I think there's more to come with it. I think now that we're in there now, we can make it a little bit more us, brand it a little bit better, like in terms of more history, more sort of where we want to go as well. And I think that's really, really exciting to see how far we can develop it.
Did you get a chance to go in the food zone then, in terms of yesterday? Because I must admit, I did miss out. Well, I missed. I missed Anthony Hartigan's obviously mistake, unfortunately, that resulted in the Oxford goal. I was busy queuing up for my fish and chips. I heard a cheering and I thought that don't sound loud enough to me, and I could literally just see the Oxford fans in the background cheering. Andy, have you had a chance to go around that sort of area? Do you get a chance to mingle around?
I had a very brief look yesterday. Part of the sort of match day experience behind the East Stand is for a couple of players to go and sort of mingle and sign autographs, take pictures, that sort of thing. So I was walking Darius and Paul Osu over there, and I had a little look around, and far beyond anything I expected. It's like a market around the back there. So many different food stalls. Beat the goal. It's a really vibrant atmosphere. Like it's great going into a game.
Brilliant.
We're a bit nervous though, because with all them food stalls, we might lose Simo. So we're a little bit nervous. To be fair, we've got to try and keep him away.
Has he been around there?
Yeah, he loves a bit of food. To be fair, so we've got to keep him on the reins.
Speaking about Simo, a couple of the boys who have been on already this season have spoken quite fondly of his initiation. Any details on that we haven't got out of Paul Calambai and the others yet? Andy,
I'll let you take that one.
That was brilliant. It's probably the best one I've ever seen, to be honest. It was just, it's tough to describe. It's honestly tough to describe. It was just, it was unexpected. He was very coy throughout the day. Wasn't giving anything away. So I asked him a couple of times on the train up what he was going to perform. And he was sort of, I'm not sure yet. I got a couple of ideas, or sort of never let on. I think he practiced it for Rob because they shared a room. And so Rob had an idea coming into it, what it was going to be, but Rob kept his mouth shut as well. So, no, it was good. It was a really good one.
Do you know what? It's quite interesting. I feel he's got it quite. You know, George and I were very lucky to be invited down to a training ground pre-season, and I was wearing the Wimbledon walkout jacket. He hadn't seen it, and he just generally. I was really struck by how genuinely he looked like he'd already got it, like fitted in, understood it, because he's come from Chelsea, so you know what he's used to at Chelsea, and what he's come here. But I look at him now. Whenever he does anything, he just looks like he's got it. He just understands it, doesn't he?
Yeah, no, he's been absolutely brilliant, and I think that he's really bought into the whole club and the whole experience. As did Justin. We had Justin back yesterday at the game, and that was brilliant to see. And I think that as soon as you come in, I think you can't help but fall in love with the story of it. And if what Robbo's always said, if you sort of throw yourself into it, then you'll fall in love with it straight away. And that's what he's done really, really well. And he's a massive part of the team for us. And he's brought a different lens into the group as well, in terms of obviously, because I've worked with Robbo for a long time, we see things very similar at times, and it's allowed us to sort of see a different opinion and a different lens on things, which has been really healthy as well. So he's absolutely loving it, and long may it continue.
George, I'll let you go.
I wasn't expecting that one, Stu.
I know, that's why I did it. I just want to keep you on your toes, mate, for a Sunday evening.
Yeah, I was going to say, we're joint top scorers in League One. I think we scored more goals from set pieces than any other team in League One. Andy, when you were on, I think you said you thought you could add maybe 5 goals to us a season through set pieces. Are we doubling or tripling that target now?
Did I only say 5? Really?
Yeah.
4 at the moment. I don't really want to set a target, to be honest. I go into every game not expecting us to score from a set piece, but confident that we will. So it's bizarre, actually. I've noticed it. I noticed it last season, but even more so this season. I celebrate our non-set piece goals a hell of a lot more than our set piece goals. And I always thought it would be the other way around. But the reality is, when we're setting up for a set piece and I see it working, I just sort of expect it to work. So when it goes in, it's sort of like, well, yeah, that was meant to happen. Whereas when it comes from open play, I'm even more like a fan then, to be honest. I'm up and celebrating a lot more then. So no, I don't want to put a target on it, because if I say 10 goals, what happens when we get to 10? We're not going to stop there. We're going to keep going. So it's always the next one we're looking for.
So it is something that I think has improved massively, and I think it's fair to say we scored more goals from set pieces this year than probably the previous 5 years combined. It's been a massive difference. How difficult was it hitting the ground running at a club where historically we haven't been great at set pieces?
It was tricky. I think I think there were some benefits in terms of it's a new idea, and so when there's someone who's focusing solely on trying to improve that area of the game, it's being given more attention, more detail. You're having more conversations with players about it. So these sort of subtle things that probably go unnoticed, little one-to-one chats in the analysis room, I think they help to build momentum towards improving it overall. So it was. I think it was difficult coming in at the time when we did, because we're bang in the middle of a season. We weren't in a great position. I think we hadn't won in 11 games or something like that. I think we'd scored one from a corner previously in the season that was against Peterborough, that was sort of bundled in. When the players went up to attack set pieces, you could sort of see their body language was a little bit, not flat, but it didn't scream, we're going up and we're going to score here. So we're trying to get them where it's like when Ben and Will go up from centre back to go for a corner, I want them jogging up, and I want the opposition defenders who are picking them up thinking, oh right, they're here to attack. Like it's little psychological things like that. So it's just loads of little things that we've tried to try and improve, as well as obviously the movement and the patterns and that sort of thing. But hopefully, getting all the ingredients right, it will continue to evolve.
And a quick question before Stu asks the live question. Yesterday, it appeared Oxford had a set-piece coach or something similar, because they were changing their personnel in the dugout at set-pieces. Does it become a personal battle between you and your position set-piece coach in a game, or do you not think of it in that way?
No, I don't think of it. But now that you mention it, I won. So
I can see Rob laughing, so I can see there definitely was something going on. Superb. Let's have a look. So, King of Five, this is one of Mark Hendricks. Let me just get this out of the way. I love the fact that the teams tend not to sit back anymore and wait for the game to finish. We tend to go for the juggler with the opposition is on the ropes. Well done, coaching staff. Yeah, I noticed that yesterday. Second half when we brought the subs on, we sort of played 3 up against the Oxford to sort of like, in a way, saying if you're going to play through it, we're going to keep them here and press. Is that Robert always talks? Robert always talks about 2-0 is not a dangerous lead. You need to go for the win. You need to do all that sort of stuff. Is that something that you're just going to keep doing? Because it did give Oxford a dilemma, because they were going to chuck people forward, but we were going to keep attacking them.
Yeah, I think we really want to make sure that we're really on the front foot always. We want to play exciting football. We want to take the game to teams all the time, and I think the best form of that is to attack. That's what we want to do. If you look at the personnel in the squad, we believe that going forward, we're right up there in terms of quality, in terms of the league as well. And I think that we want to play on the front foot as much as possible. And I think the third goal showed that yesterday. I think the composure from Will in the corner, I don't think I've seen a Wimbledon player in a while do that, in terms of you're in the corner, he's not smashing out of the ground anymore. He's composed, he's finding passes, and within 3 passes later, the ball's in the back of the net, and we played through the thirds doing it. And I think that's what people want to see. We want to entertain, but obviously the main, like any game of football, we have to do the ugly side right. We have to pick up our second balls. We have to make sure that we're narrowing off at the right time, and when we need to defend, we defend properly. And I think that's the biggest thing. The basis of any performance is making sure that we're solid and we're hard to beat. That's first and foremost what we always talk about. But from there, it's giving the players the confidence and the belief to just go and play on the front foot and go and enjoy themselves. And they enjoy themselves when they're playing free-flowing, attacking football. So, that's sort of the game plan that we want to go with wherever we go. And, I know the next question will probably be, is that the same for Arsenal? And yeah, it definitely will be. We'll go there and be on the front foot. And as Robbo said in his interview yesterday, why wouldn't we? Because we want to go and entertain, and we want to take the game to teams as much as possible.
Yeah, and do you know what? When Robbo said that yesterday, the great thing about it, I thought, was it wasn't coming across as being cocky or anything. It wasn't coming across as being arrogant. It was just being honest and going, do you know what, why wouldn't we go there and give it your all? Which I think is quite refreshing, because you can sometimes be a bit, not arrogant, because we're not in a position to be arrogant in terms of the league positions. But that was quite good. Got me thinking, that question, Andy. Restart coach, do you, not that we like to waste time and stuff like that, but it got me thinking about at Doncaster away when we killed the game in the corner with Aaron Presley and that. Is that also something that you would work at in terms of, I suppose, I suppose a lot of stuff you're doing is attacking and defensive corners and stuff like that. But would you work on that as well in terms of how to kill the game and stuff like that? It just got me a little question thinking about that.
It's not really something that I personally will dive into. It's more Robbo's call when we're going to try and manage the game. It's obviously it is still a restart, but it's part of it will be on the players and part of it will come from Robbo and the coaching staff as a collective when we're going to try and use sort of different ideas to try and see a game out. But it's important, like it's part of the game. Donny, we did it really, really well. Gillingham, we probably did a little bit too early. So that it's just part of the game. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. So look. So another question here. Again from Mark Hendricks. Pre-season was a little alarm with fan base due to results. The fan base is always reacts to results. What do they think? What do you both think clicked between pre-season and the first sort of match of the seasons? Rob, I'll go with you first.
I think in pre-season, obviously, there was a lot of new players, and we were obviously trying different formations and looking at different things. And I think that if you look at it, we were quite happy with pre-season in terms of there was highlights within games and things that in terms of our brick ball and our processes that we put in place that allowed us, that we knew that we were getting closer to where we wanted to be. So I think that the biggest thing that we always look at is we go back to our process, we go back to our brick wall, and we go, okay, what bricks are working? What bricks do we potentially need to look at and look to improve on? So I think that's the beauty of having the process that we've built behind us. And with the brick wall, we're always able to not be too high or not be too low, because we can go back to that and go, okay, how can we analyse this performance? Well, we look at the brick wall, what bricks were we fantastic at, and what bricks do we potentially need to look at to improve, and that's just what we continuously look to do. So we're not reactional. We don't look at things and go, oh, we've got to rip that up and start again. We won't do that because we believe in the process that we put in place, and that's what we'll always go back to.
Andy, what about yourself? So was pre-season more about on the training pitch rather than games, because it was a lot of mix and match teams, wasn't it?
You don't get any points in July. Like the fixtures they're not competitive games. Like obviously every time you go onto a pitch, you want to try and win the game. That's natural, but it's always bigger picture. So like Rob said, with the wall, we don't come away from that. And if we start reacting to every little thing and every result in pre-season, we're going to come away from what is us. And it was always just about building the players' minutes up from like a sports science and conditioning perspective. So that by the time we got to Doncaster, everyone's had 90 minutes in the tank and is ready to compete and play. And it was, as Rob said, about trying some different things out, seeing what works, what doesn't. But it's not something that we ever really worried about. I felt like it was a good pre-season in terms of how much we grew. The results would probably suggest otherwise, but like I said, they're not finite situations. You don't gain anything from reacting to those situations. So it's it's just about growing.
Yeah. And I want to say, obviously, in terms of we were at Player Sponsors Meal on Tuesday, and obviously we caught up then. How did you find that? That was one of the first events at Plough Lane. Is that one of your first, Andy, that you've seen with the player sponsors?
Yeah, it's my first one. Yeah, my first one. I thought it was a great evening, to be honest. It was what I loved is just that everyone was just mingling with everyone. So like on my table, I had it was myself and Paul Callenby and Luke McCormick to begin with, but then Luke went off to another table and Rudy came in. Then Rudy went off and Dapo came in, and there was just I thought the players were outstanding. I thought they were just as good as you could have asked them to be. Yeah. To be honest, it was just lovely chatting with everyone. Everyone's got different stories about how long they've supported the club. You've got people that have sort of married into the club, if you like, never watched football before, but married someone who's a Dons fan, and that's now taken over their life. And it's just great hearing all the different all different backgrounds and stories.
Yeah, and I've sponsored players for about 5 years now, and what I would say is I always say that you're asking young adults to sit with people that are probably businessmen or stuff like that. And I couldn't imagine at sort of 19, 20, 21 me being able to do that. I think it's a real big credit to the players. Rob, how did you find it? Obviously, I'm assuming you've done them before. How did you find the evening?
Yeah, no, I've not actually done it before. That was my first one as well. No, no,
Okay.
and yeah, I thought it was a fantastic event. I think it shows again where the clubs come from. If you compare the Back Park, Kings Meadow, compared to the sort of event space that we've got at Plough Lane, it was so good to see. And I think that I just echo what Andy said. Really, I thought the players were superb, but I thought the fans' reaction and the way that you can see the excitement within the fans as well, and it was just really nice for them to feel that they could ask us honest questions, and they get honest answers as well, and that's what we want. We want them to, if they've got anything on their mind or got questions that they want to ask, feel free to come and ask us, and we'll be open and honest with our answers with them as well. So we want to try and do as many events like that as possible, because I know that it's after the players were talking and they loved it as well. So I think what you've got is a really honest group of players who want to get out there, and they want to build that attachment with the fans as much as possible. And that went a long way to doing that on Tuesday.
Yeah, it was a great evening, and from a personal point of view, like I say, the players were in there from 6. Some weren't even leaving. I think Alex Woodjar was just in front of me at 10 o'clock when I was leaving. And I know you'd all been at the ground on that day for a long day. So yeah, it was an amazing thing. Robbo, by the way, and Robbo will probably watch it at some point, but Robbo gave away the Arsenal date within literally 5 minutes of us talking to him. It'd be no good on it. He said it, and then he was like, "Oh, 1 second, is that been released yet?" I went, "Well, no, you've told us now, Robbo." But it had been. But yeah, I had a friend with me who hadn't been to the event before, and he was absolute. And the interesting thing was, you see some players that are quiet sometimes. His opinion of players changed massively, and I think it's a credit to the club. I've been on a couple of events. I was saying to George, one of the funny stories I had, and I'm asking, were you checking what they were eating? And the reason I say that is Adi Aziz years ago done a classic where he put all his chips and all his lasagna at the bottom of the plate and then put salad on the top. Walked past Neil Ardley and Neil clocked him. It was the funniest thing ever. Did you give them any guidelines of what they could eat? Could they have seconds and stuff like that, Rob?
Not that I know of. I'm sure Chris and Vicky would have had a chat with
Yeah, the other ones.
But no, they're all good lads, and they're all very professional in their approach to things. So I'm sure that there's a few fussy eaters. I'm surprised there's not a few that wanted to get a Nando's rather than have a Carvery. But yeah, no, they were fine.
Cool. Okay, George, got anything? You want to quick go before I go through more questions?
I think Rob's response to that has taken away my anecdote for the evening. Not going to put a player in a bit of trouble then. There was a similar incident without the consequences because player got away with it this year.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Brother chat after, George. Brother chat after.
George, I can't believe you've done that, George. You've sold someone out. Let's have a look. So, yeah, one question is quite an interesting one because I'm interested to see how you feel because I'm not overly convinced. Teddy Rock's been massive promising start to the season, but our left side often looks vulnerable and seems to be targeted by opposition. What can we do to tighten things up? The question I asked that is because someone got to attack someone at us on that. Is that something that you've realised or anything like that, Andy?
It's probably more one for Rob, to be honest. I guess it's going down the left side is an open play one, and I'm gonna duck a little bit more.
Well, Rob did start it, to be fair, so yeah, good one.
No, it's not something that we've really looked at, if I'm honest with you. I think that at times it may seem like that, I suppose, but I think what we've got in the side is at times the formation that we play means that we play attacking high fullbacks high, and there might be more space down the sides at times for the opposition to potentially get in. But I can't really remember many teams opening us up like this year for long spells. If I'm being completely honest, I feel that teams do have spells, but I don't think there's long periods where teams have really opened us up. So I think what we need to look at is not just look at one side, but looking at almost everything. So again, I'll go back to the brick wall. Before they get to that left side, was we aggressive in our press? Did we get the right numbers around the ball? We've got to look at was we focusing on just one ball, or did we play the game like there was two balls at the time? There's a lot that builds up before you can just pinpoint that it was down one side of the pitch. So I think what we need to do in analysis is look at everything and look 5 minutes before to see, well, where did the attack start from? Could we have stopped it at source rather than just looking at the end, where it ends up, really. So we'll always go back to where it came from first and foremost.
Brilliant. I had to put this one in. Mick Adams, Rob just needs a clock to finish his house decor. Some humour of people. Obviously, yesterday was quite a few, even like Oxford fans, and I know one of my friends, Aaron Paul, was there and said the atmosphere was just rocking yesterday. Andy, I know we've talked before, and you said you're enjoying it. How good was that? That was insane yesterday, wasn't it? The atmosphere at the ground.
Oh, it was rocking yesterday. It was absolutely rocking, and I think players and fans feed off each other, really. Like the players like the fans to help them to get going, and the fans as well will like the players to sort of demonstrate their quality to get them going. So I think it goes hand in hand. But when it all comes together like it did for Stages yesterday, the place is unbelievable. It's hard to say. Like, technically we're at work, but we're having the time of our lives. It's brilliant. Like we just really enjoy being there. It's great.
Yeah, and Rob, yesterday I was noticing yesterday, because I'm always keen to see what roles you all have. Like, I normally see Bezo giving the fourth official some grief. I noticed yesterday you were going quite a lot to him yesterday. Is that purely for, because they can't really do much, can they, the fourth officials? Is that probably more for you, or do you try to influence them? You know, what sort of role? On match day, it's just interesting to see what you were doing yesterday, in terms, because Robbo just stands there, doesn't he? Bless him, like no emotion, as he said before. But you're different.
Yeah, no, I think this year it's actually changed. So you have to nominate 2 people only that can talk to the officials. So only myself and Robbo are the only 2 allowed. So Bezo's, I'm getting it from Bezo now, and then but no, like in terms of the fourth official, I don't think it might seem like we're talking. I talk to him quite a bit, but it's just asking sort of what was the decision for. Can you explain that? Because that's good information for us to then feed back as well at times to players. And I think we've had some testing managers down lately, and who love to like basically thrive off just getting at the fourth official, and it's quite embarrassing, to be honest with you. It's part of the game that I think, since coming up with the first team, I think me and Robbo can't believe sort of, 1, the language that's used by opposition managers, but 2, just the behaviours that they have on the touchline. And you see them in the tunnel beforehand, and they're this lovely, calm person, and you put them on the touchline, and you're just like, where has this come from? Like, it's great. It's crazy to see. So, I think that you're never going to change a decision, not even a referee's decision at the time. You're not going to change it. So it's about making sure that, obviously you can't be walked over at times. So I think at times you have to give your point of view across to the fourth official and ask questions. But that's all it is, really. It's never a screaming, shouting match. It's just asking questions and seeing if we can just get them answers to help us feed back to players as well at times.
And as Rob sort of sidestepped, he said a very interesting challenging managers. That's a statement and a half. What was your experience of the Gillingham game? I've got to ask you, because that bench doesn't get any better, does it? And what was it like being alongside it?
I find it quite bizarre, to be honest. Rob sort of alluded to it there, but these opposition managers spend, I'd say, 90% of the game berating officials when they're not having any impact or helping their players at all.
Yeah.
So, sort of in my view, when you're in the technical area and you're up and you're communicating, you should be communicating to try and impact the game by helping your team, helping them find solutions, giving instructions, whatever it may be. As Rob said, you never change a decision. So every time you're wasting your own energy, you're wasting your own voice when you're just berating officials all the time, and you don't get anywhere. Like I think you get yourself more and more agitated, more and more worked up, and that's going to influence. Like, it's going to impact your decision making, your thinking. It's going to cloud your mind and your judgment. I just don't really get it. Like, we like to be fairly, like, a little bit different anyway, just as coaching staff. But there are some things in football that just seem to be commonplace for absolutely no reason. I think that's one of them. It's the Gillingham game is one example. There's a few.
Does it make you bite in a way, though, Rob? Is Is that what they want to do? Because I remember years ago, Simon Bassey got a booking for telling. Well, I can't even say what he'd done, but he basically just lost his rag and had enough. Just went. Do you think sometimes it isn't just trying to unsettle you as well? Because we are quite a calm, and what you've just been saying, I think we keep level heads and provide information. Is it a case sometimes I just want you to bite a little bit?
Potentially, but yeah, I like to wind up myself, so I don't think it'd take a lot to get me to bite. I think. Well, I'd like to think so anyway. But yeah, no, I just think that if they're focusing on us on the bench, then as Andy said, they're not giving the right information to their team potentially. Yeah, the one thing I suppose that I would say is that if you look at certain managers when they are getting at fourth officials or they're putting the attention on them, I think it's wrong then when potentially the game gets stopped and there's breaks in play because of it, because ultimately that's time that gets added on and then obviously it could play into teams' favours as well, or it just stops play. So I just think that referees just need to be a little bit stronger and just think at times about not making it acceptable. Listen, you wouldn't walk down the street and start screaming and shouting at the postman or the milkman, for example. So I don't know why it's acceptable that because there's a gentleman between two benches that you can start screaming and shouting at them, or there's a man in the middle and you can start screaming and shouting at them. It's just not acceptable. And it's only the football industry where it is acceptable. You look at sports like rugby, for example, and that's the example that we need to follow. And football does set a bad example in that way. So yeah, I much prefer our approach to things than other teams, and I'm sure. Well, I know we won't be changing our approach.
Good. George, any questions? So I've got a final few questions, and then we'll wrap up.
No, nothing else from me.
Okay, so what have we got in here? So, Rob Boyce, even though it seemed like after the game, Darius led a post-match huddle. How influential has he been on the squad so far, Rob?
Yeah, no, Darius has been brilliant. Yeah, the players, I don't know what was said in the huddle. That's for the players. That's for them to do and them taking ownership. And I think the players have lent on Darius at times in terms of for his experience and that. And yeah, it's been really, really positive that he's able to hold them meetings and pass on his experience. But yeah, I think the more that we can get them all just taking ownership, and Darius is still learning our processes that we've put in place before, and he's still getting up to speed on them. So we've got consistent alignment between coaches and players as well. So that's something that's an ongoing process that we're trying to work on. But the biggest thing is we want all the players to take ownership and not rely solely on Darius or on myself or Andy or Robbo. Can they take ownership for their own performances and their own learning as well? So that's the bigger picture that we're trying to really focus on, rather than it just be led by one individual, really.
Brilliant. And final question from the listeners. I think this one's a great one. Alexander Addison, it was great to see Ant pick his head up second half after a mistake. For the mental coaching we've benefited from, is it something that needs constant refreshers, or is it maybe a habit thing? Because I thought Anthony's, in terms of how he picked himself up that second half, and he was great. Is that really important also for what he needs to do from the restarts? Yeah,
without a doubt. I think when we spoke with Justin Cochran after the game yesterday, he made a really good point. He said that after the mistake that made for their goal, the first thing he did when play restarted was he went and demanded the ball again. So he didn't look to hide. Like he showed that character that we know he's already got, just to get on the ball and get back into his rhythm, get back into his game. And second half, you saw like his delivery was outstanding from set pieces. So it's a credit to Ant. Yeah, that we have the mental coaching or the sort of mindset coaching that has the benefit, but credit's got to go to the individuals as well to bounce back from that. And Ant did that in abundance yesterday.
Yeah, from a personal point of view, I was really pleased with Ant. I was in that southwest corner, and he literally celebrated with his arms open as if like, that's what I can do. It was great celebration.
I did see that. That, and I'll add Ethan Chislett to that as well. Ethan put a little block on one of their players and then ran off like Shearer, celebrating as if he'd scored it himself. Jumped in the crowd
for the third goal.
For the second goal, for the second goal. Yeah.
And then got a booking.
And then got a booking, yeah.
You can't celebrate or do anything like that, can you? When you score a goal, it's great on that. Obviously, we go to Pompey in the Papa John's Trophy on Tuesday night. I have to say, you all, yourself and the players, have caused a dilemma for a lot of people I know, because of course that tournament isn't the most well received. Let's put it that way. But I know a lot of people now who want to go. They want to go back to Plough Lane. They want to see the football and stuff like that. So that is a credit to the players and the management team on that. What we expecting from Pompey on Tuesday?
It's a bit of a strange one. They obviously haven't had a game in the past week or so. So don't know how many changes they'll be looking to make. I'm sure that they probably would have had some in-house games, ticking themselves over, but also we don't know how many this competition. Usually there's a few changes from oppositions, but we don't really know what to expect. But again, I think like any competition, and I know that we've said it before, but every competition we are going to win this season, and we're going to make sure that we give it our all in every competition. So there's no foot off the gas. It's a chance to play at Wembley at the end of the day, and I know that it's something that we'd all love to do. So it's definitely a competition that we're taking very, very seriously, like we do with every competition. And we'll be going there to really carry on the second half performance from Saturday, really.
Thank you. And Andy, have they got a restart coach at Pompey? Have you already started looking?
They haven't, no. But I know what the Cowleys are like, so they've got set things that they do. Again, as Rob said, we don't know what they're going to do personnel wise. Carabao Cup, they played a strong team, albeit that was against Championship opposition. So they haven't rotated much. Our sort of instinct is that they'll keep quite a few key players in because they didn't play Saturday, so they want to top them up. But we expect a lot from them anyway. They're going to be a good side. They're going to be a well-run side. So it's another good challenge for us. And like Rob said, we're going out to win the competition. So the last game in that competition is at Wembley, and you come back with a trophy. Like what's there not to be motivated about?
Definitely. Danny Cowley, I'll never forget Kings Meadow. I was there early one year, and he come down with Lincoln, and he started pacing out literally from the halfway line to the penalty spot to this. I was just it made me realise it's what you just said actually, the detail that he went into, and it was amazing to see, like in terms of pacing out and that sort of side of it. So it'll be a good test for us down at Portsmouth at Plough Lane. Guys, really appreciate you giving up your Sunday. It's been really interesting.
No problem at all.
Thanks for having us on. Cheers, guys.
So that's us. That's us now. So this will go up as a podcast. We are back on Friday with the podcast, and next game, Pompey at home in the Papa John's Trophy. Guys, thank you very much for joining us.
Cheers, guys. See you on Tuesday.
Cheers, guys. Thank you.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Bye, guys.
Hello.
Hello.
Well, it looks like it might actually be working.
Hello everybody, welcome to the 9 Years podcast.
Oh, well, no, don't joke with me that we're live. Oh, wow. I'm very sorry, everybody. We were miles away. We were pondering this defeat. I can't talk today. People are just rubbishing it because it's never going to happen. And I'll bet my mortgage, my life, everything I have that Neil Ardley will not go to Notts County.
Interesting.
Apparently, they've had 18 stays of